I'm Marnette, and I dress as a hobby.
I- so I feel like a lot of people pay attention to their dress. What do you mean that you dress as a hobby? How's that different than the way other people dress?
Well, I dress for fun. Like, I think it's entertaining. Um I shop for the things I like almost as sport, right? So um it's not a thing I have to do or a thing that I don't know. It's just for fun. All of it is for fun for me, and that's a choice, right? Like, and I have a rule that I don't wear ever for any reason, under any circumstance, anything I don't love. So that's just a choice I made, right? So then, wow, I had to change the way I dressed to live that.
When did that was that an epiphany somewhere in your life?
It was, yes. So I was probably in my 30s, which is both too old and now quite a long time ago for me. And I love Halloween. I just love Halloween. And so I was living every year for Halloween. And I like my Halloween costumes to be real clothes, and they're never timely or clever or anything. And I pick the same things often. And one day, the day after Halloween, I'm like, wow, it's a whole year till Halloween comes back. And I'm like, I cannot just be happy about what I wear one time a year. I have to be happy about it every day. And so that might give people the idea that maybe I don't dress like everyone else, which I don't. But I basically want to dress like a gypsy, witch, princess, uh, every day of my life, and not have people think I'm crazy. So that's basically what I do.
So, well, one of the questions I like to ask people is, what do people think? So I feel like that goes right into that because I noticed, I think I came when you already had started doing this because I saw pictures of you years ago in the pro headshot as you and your professional, and you were wearing whatever the top is of a pantsuit. Like you had the jacket on and you looked professional
Yeah.
in the headshot. And I'm like, oh, that was Marnette when she was young, but something changed. She started dressing differently. What do people think? How did you adjust? Because this wasn't just when you're home you do this or when you hang out with your friends you do this. You started to incorporate this into everything, even your professional life. So what did people think about your change of dress?
Well, that's a great question. I'm not sure I always know, right? So the people who like it tell me, and the people who don't like it don't, I assume. And but I do get comments out in the world. But usually people don't say anything unless they like it, right? And I do adjust a little bit for business situations. So, I'll tilt it a little more businessy, but yeah, I'm never putting on a pantsuit again in my life, right? So, um, so that's an interesting thing. Um, but I put on a jacket. It's just not the jacket that anyone else wears, right? Like, and that's why I, I can't go out on the day before a business meeting and buy an outfit, right? Like that's just, it's not possible for me to do that and find what I want because what I like isn't available all the time or in one store or in one place or at any given season. So that's why the shopping is for sport, right? Like I have to already own the clothes I like um, for every special occasion. So that's funny. But yeah, I think there are probably people who don't like it or who think I go too far, but most people seem to like it. They do have trouble describing, um, and that's always funny and kind of awkward, right? So, um, like my sweet dad used to try and tell people what I dressed like. And I came once to his place and his neighbor's like, "Oh, you must be his daughter." I'm like, "How do you know that?" And she's like, "Well, he's been telling me what you wear for 6 months." And I'm like, "What does that sound like?" And she's like, "I'm not sure exactly, but I do recognize you." Right? So that's funny. But
So
uh
you're a wordsmith. How would you describe? So now unfortunately, I have a clear, having spent many years with you, I have a clear vision of what your look looks like, but how do you describe it, or how have you heard other people describe it?
Well, the most common description I get is boho chic, right? So I dress a little bit like a gypsy, but sometimes it has a coat to make it look a little more professional. I wear cowboy boots almost every day of my life. So all of the things with cowboy boots. I wear skirts almost every day of my life. So skirts and cowboy boots is where I live. Um, and then I wear piles of layers, right? So one of the things that people laugh about the most is that anytime it's seasonally appropriate, I wear long bloomers that stick out from my skirts. So fluffy pants underneath everything, which is really, there right there is probably a fashion choice that most people don't make, right? But it's all fun. Like it's just, I do it because it's fun and I like it and I'm comfortable and I feel good in my skin and I feel good in my clothes. I think that's something that people underestimate the value, right? So when I leave the house or in this moment, leave the room or whatever, I'm
Right.
happy in what I'm wearing, right? Like, and I think that makes it look, and I pick things that look good on me, right? But I think that makes it look good on me is that I'm happy, I'm comfortable. This is who I really am, right? These are things I love. And I think that makes a big difference. And I'm comfortable.
Do you ever have to wear things these days? Because I think most of the times I saw you, I think you were wearing some variation of stuff that you loved. Do you ever have to wear? Do you feel weird when you don't get to wear what you love?
I never don't wear what I love.
You're never forced into like a t-shirt and shorts, or you're never like, I don't know, you have to borrow somebody else's clothes. It just hardly ever happens.
It never happens. And so I wear things that other people wouldn't wear in situations like, so I'm going to give you an example. So, hey, whole company is going to the Royals game. Everyone is going to have on jeans, shorts, and a t-shirt. That's what you're supposed to wear to the game, right? I don't wear that to the game. I mean, I'm never wearing that to the game. That's not what I'm going to wear to the game. That doesn't make me happy, right? So I don't wear that. So I just have to choose to wear something else, right? Which is fine. Like I'm all fine about it. I mow the yard in skirts. If I'm mowing the yard, I'm wearing a skirt because I love that, and jewelry usually because I love jewelry too. Um, and so do people think that's odd? Probably. If anyone saw me mowing the yard in my skirt, they might think that was odd, but whatever, right? Who cares? I don't know. I don't care.
It's interesting because I think a lot of, especially when it comes to professional dress, I think people have to put on something that's not them because they're trying to fit into some group. And so the thing that always interested me about your dress is, here is this thing that's a part of me that I just won't give up. I mean, I'll adjust a little bit, but I just won't give up. It's like, I don't know. It's nice to see. It feels like a boundary. There's a line and you don't cross the
Mhm.
line.
Right, I don't. And I did, so to be fair, the intimate work group at work, right? I did break them in slowly as I built this wardrobe. So they didn't have to get the whole bloomers and skirts thing all in one go, right? That took me a couple of years. And I got better at refining what it really was about the clothes that I liked and didn't like because I didn't dress like this before, right? So what do I like together? What do I not like together? They suffered through all probably the trial and error period, so that was probably endlessly entertaining. Um, but yeah, now I can dress for really any work situation, and I feel completely comfortable. But I also probably, I mean, for sure, I don't look like just everybody else who showed up. I went to 1 week training recently, and it, I mean, it's just true. I just don't dress like everybody else, but I've done it for long enough now that I hardly notice. I just don't care, and I'm comfortable, and I've done it a lot. But people talk to me about it, which actually for me is a blessing, right? They're just like you, when you're like, well, I could talk to you about what you wear. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm all armed up for that. I could talk to anybody about what I wear because I do it all the time. But it gives people something to come and talk to me about, right? Which, given that I hate those situations, giving them what's it to come up to me and talk about is great, right? Like, oh, I love your jacket. Well, thank you, right? Like, I dress as a hobby.
Is
So
that
they'll
your
talk to you
line?
about
Do
that.
you have a do you is that the do you give that, or very seldom do you talk about why you're dressed that way? You'll talk about the things you have and the things you like and dislike, but do they ever ask you? That's the most interesting thing, is always the why question. The why, and then you say, well, I dress as a hobby.
Yeah, nobody really asks me why. In fact, it's pretty rare to get a question. Um, so that's where you're always fascinating. You always have a question. Mostly they just say something, right? It's a statement. Usually I like statements. So I like your jacket, or I like your style, or I like your boots, right? It's usually something super specific. And they have trouble actually getting to the picture, right? Which is, I like I like the way you dress in general is not something I get very often. But it does happen, and sometimes from really unusual places. Like, there was a period of my life where I ate at the salad bar at the nearby grocery store for months, and the same guy checked me out. Uh, I don't know, 3 times a week or something. I don't know him, and he doesn't know me, and um, I think the store was moving, or there was some impetus that and he was kind of grumpy usually, right? Like, it's not like he was friendly when I showed up. Um, he just, I don't know. But either he was moving jobs or the store was changing. There's something anyway. The whole non-relationship was coming to a close. And he said to me, I like the way you dress, right? Like, this guy I don't know at all. I've never said a whole sentence to him besides, here's your change, right? Like, and he described it. He's one of my favorites. He said, you dress like modern day Earth Mama, I think. I'm like, oh, thank you very much. That's clearly a compliment. So funny. But most people have trouble getting all the way to a you dress like, right? They're mostly like, I like your boots. Like, oh, thanks. I love boots. I mean, that's what happens more than anything. I like your boots. Oh, thanks. I love boots.
So, okay, maybe that's interesting that he kind of put a word. He's like, oh, you're like a modern Earth Mama. To me, a person many people who dress as an Earth Mama or a sports fan or a CEO or whatever, they're putting on a costume and they're trying to message something. I'm trying to message something to you in what I'm wearing. Do you feel like are you trying to message something to us by what you wear?
Oh, that's interesting. I'll have to think about it some more. So, um, for sure, I'm messaging to me about what I wear, right? Like, I mean, I've said to you, I have this very defined, I'm not going to wear anything I don't love. And every day I'm like, do I love this? Right. So, um, the messaging and the situations that you ask me about is typically where I might be more like hurting myself, right? Like, um, hey, as an exec, take me seriously. Here's my skirt and bloomers, right? So that can be sometimes challenging, right? And so I do make accommodation for that. I wouldn't wear the bloomers on a job interview, right? Like, but I would wear a skirt and boots. So, still would be wearing something that I really loved. And I think it's only fair in that kind of situation, like if you're on a sales call, if you're going to a job interview, I still wear something that's in line for me, partly because that's only honest. Hey, this is what you're really going to get, right? Like, I look like this every day. And so if they didn't like it, then I'm not going to be a good choice, right? So authenticity. Um, I have a friend who's an artist and designer who said that the less I got to make creative things in my day-to-day work life, the more I dressed funny, right?
That's interesting.
And so I think it's more probably about self-expression than it is about messaging, because I didn't really probably know that that was part of the impetus. Like maybe if I'd been a writer, artist, editor full-time every day of my life instead of a manager, executive person, I might not have done this, right? Who knows?
Is it not so? I've been annoyingly is the right word. Reading about Zen Buddhism lately, and I'd read about it decades ago. But Zen Buddhism is really about getting past words and getting closer. Sometimes, like some of the famous Zen koans are very basic, and Zen poetry is about very simple things like shuffling along, looking at the stars, making your farm, sweeping the floor, very basic stuff. That's sort of like it's not messaging anything. It just is what it is. Do you feel like your dress, especially maybe as you go through the years, just becomes, it's just about a nonverbal kind of, I like this, I don't like this, it makes me feel good to wear this. That's as far as it goes. It's not a large philosophy about life. I'm not trying to transmit a verbal message to you about who I am. This just makes me feel good. I don't know.
Yeah, really, it makes me feel good, and I wanna feel as good as possible every day of my life, right? So this is the stuff that I like, and it just makes me happy, right? You make me think one of the other things that I'm really kind of like feel is a little bit ridiculous, but I really only like to wear natural fiber, right? So I wear linen and silk and wool, and I don't wear nylon or polyester or
Lycra.
but it's because I like the way it feels, right? So I like the way it looks, I like the way it behaves, I like fabric, and those natural fabrics I just really really like, right? And so hey, I always walk, and I don't like to iron, so I walk around wrinkly in the world with raw edges of linen that are fringy, and all of that I like, right? And so, but you made me think about it in the, this just feels right to me, right? This makes me happy. This is less about me fitting in and more about who I really am and what I like.
Has that feeling you get from dressing as a hobby, was that a thing that, again, it was self-expression, it was a sort of compartment, and there were other things swirling around it, and you hold on to this compartment and you keep this thing safe, you cherish this? Or has this thing bled out into the way you react to the other things in your life?
I'm not sure I know. Can you give me some more words?
Yes. So if this is you getting closer to what you like and don't like, closer to whatever, like that inner energy you have when you're reacting in a tactile way, in a visual way, in a feel way, with all the things around you, kind of close to who you are, has this kind of you're dressing as a hobby and you're expressing yourself in that way, has that helped you express yourself in other ways that don't have anything to do with how you're dressed?
Oh, I think so. So yes, I think so. So let me unpack that a little bit. So when I first started dressing not like everyone else, I was uncomfortable about it, right? And I worried, is this outfit too much? Is that outfit? What will people think? I was uncomfortable. And so getting to a place where I will wear whatever I want any day on any day for any reason, because this is how I feel today, is super liberating, right? And that one example of being me out in the world and finding that there are people who like that is encouraging when you're about to go do something else that's uncomfortable. So I have this super long path, right, of being more really who I am out in the world and having that go well for me, right? Or at least reasonably well for me. And so I think that's encouraging, right? When you're doing other things that are uncomfortable or maybe not completely aligned to what everyone else does or thinks. It was practice. Still is probably practice. So.
And it sounds like overall you had mostly positive or neutral experiences. And this may be, you don't have to share one if you don't want to, but I'm wondering, especially in your first few years of trying this thing on and having it feeling insecure and worried about it, did you ever have a really bad negative thing that almost put you off? Like, this is just, I hate this. I don't want to deal with this. It's not worth it.
No, I don't think I really did. The only really kind of bad thing I can think of, and I didn't care that much, right? So it wasn't, but there was some time when some super corporate HR person was insisting that my whole team needed to do, what kind of training do they call that? Like, but it's about professional presentation, like personal brand training.
Okay.
I'm like, perhaps she doesn't like my personal brand, right? And then, but she didn't say that, and I'm like, well, and I don't care. And nobody on the team needed personal brand training, like most articulate brand ambassadors I could ever ask for. So I basically just said no, no, try something else. And that could have not even been about me, right? Like, I don't know. But she's very, very traditional. So could have been, yeah.
Do you remember, have you liked Halloween since you were a kid or since you were a teenager, like dressing up?
Oh, yeah, I love Halloween. My favorite holiday.
Do you think about what would have happened if instead of in your 30s, because I think about so many kids in high school and junior high who dressed weird or acted weird, and that was a punishing, harrowing, terrible experience for them. Mm-hmm. Even though their only thing was they wanted to wear bright green lipstick every day and tights, just whatever, and people would give them crap. As adults, maybe by the time you did it in your 30s, do you think what would have happened if you'd indulged your thing earlier, or do you wish you had, or does the evolution feel just right?
Well, I do think that's harrowing. So no, I don't wish I had. I'm happy to have just survived as invisible as possible. I had plenty of other oddities. And then could I have done it any earlier? I just don't think I could have probably done it until I got to that place in my, I hit a place where I could, right? And that's why it happened. I'm grateful that I got there. What if I hadn't? That would have been sad. But yeah, I think all those kids are brave, right? And finding themselves and finding their identities, all the same things probably that my stuff is for me. I'm not sure they've identified their forever style at that point, but good on them for trying it.
Yeah.
Right. And it is that, I mean, that's a, separating myself from my pack kind of thing. That might be a little bit, maybe they're expressing their true identity in an authentic way, and maybe they're just not being like the others. Either one of those I can appreciate, right? So it's an interesting question.
So I would be remiss, even though I think my personal style is close to don't give a crap and slovenly. So somewhere between there is where I usually land on any given day. But I would be remiss if I didn't ask you the important question. How do you do this? So from the very beginning, when you first started putting these together to today, where do you buy this stuff? How do you put it together? How do you make your decisions about what to wear?
Oh, um, so, well, I keep things that I like. So I love Pinterest, and I pin things that I like. I'm like, oh, I like that. I like that. I like that. What I realized when I started exploring is that the stuff that I like um, is uh, niche, not surprisingly. Um, and if you just want to go out and buy it all put together, it's wildly expensive boutique,
Okay.
right? Ridiculous. So I don't do that. I don't go to the boutique and buy it because I will not. And that's just I can't stand it, right? Like to to go out and buy linen or cotton bloomers in today's world, you have to go somewhere super shishi and spend $200, and I'm not going to. So
So
no,
how do you
I'm
get
not.
yours?
So I sew mine. So the bloomers I make my own.
Okay.
And then um, I the skirts are easy to find, no big deal. You can buy that any day. I love to shop secondhand. So I go to Goodwill or wherever. My favorite online shopping by a mile is ThreadUp. So that's secondhand online shopping. And that's amazing, that dangerously amazing. When I first found it, I spent too much money because it was just so easy. So, like, you can shop by fabric content, and I also don't wear much pattern. You can say no patterns. You can shop color. You can, and it just would spit out the things that I would spend months looking for. I'm like, oh my God, best find ever, buy, right? Like, um, so that was a problem for me for a while. But it really helped me when I figured out that I liked particular fabrics, because that can just eliminate all kinds of things that you might otherwise look at. Like, no, 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 no. Oh, here, this is linen. Do I like it? Um, and there are certain cuts that look better on me. So, but it takes a while to learn all that, right? Like, I bought all kinds of things that I'm like, oh, this isn't working the way I think. Um, but I've gotten so I can totally find the thing that will work too. So it's a process.
How much of it is like, obviously now in the pandemic, 0% of it is in clothing retail. How much of the stuff would you say in the last 5 years do you buy almost all your stuff online, or is it really still a mixture of visiting secondhand places locally?
Um, I only go to the thrift stores in person for the fun of it, right? I mean, I seriously do not need any more clothes. I have all the clothes I need. I should have the clothes. I'm usually trying to get rid of clothes, and I try to get rid of something if I buy something. So then I'm like, oh, which piece am I going to give up if I buy this, right? Um, so I really try not to buy any more clothes because I could dress for any occasion. Um, so, but ThreadUp is really my favorite. And what I do now is I try and look and not buy, which means try not to look too much.
uh, if you, it's interesting. It sounds like years ago you hit on the part of the Marie Kondo thing, which is everything in your house, your life, you should love it. And if you don't love it, you should say thank you to it and pass it on, throw it away, give it away, whatever. And you kind of did that for your clothing and curated a bunch of clothing you love. Do you get bored with things you love in your closet? Like you loved it 5 years ago, but something changes, or the things you love, you love them forever?
um, I don't get bored. Where I wind up getting rid of things is mostly I love this, but it's not quite flexible enough. Like, oh, I love this, but um, I only love it with these two jackets, and it doesn't look good with this skirt layered under it, right?
Okay.
And so, and I still wish I had fewer clothes, but I love clothes. So this is the problem always, right? Um, so when I'm trying to get it back so that it all fits only on the hangers that I have, I get rid of the things that are less flexible so that they mix and match better.
That makes sense. So you
Um,
still like them, but you're looking at some practical aspect of how many things merge with the unit.
right.
Yeah. Who
So like,
helps you with this? Like back in the day, was there anybody when you were in your 30s who was a model for doing this? And then who are there people who shop with you? Are there other people that you found who have this same zest for style dressing as a hobby?
well, my designer friend Allison would shop with me and was always super sweet about liking the things. And she could, I mean, will always be able to probably walk into a store and say, here's your thing, right? Like, she's really good at that. She can do that for anybody. Like, she could go into a store and pick your clothes for you too, right? Like, um, she's just very good at it. So she was super supportive. Really, almost everyone was supportive. Oh, if like, what if I'd had a boss who was like, that's not appropriate, right? I didn't have that, so I was in the right environment. Um, God, I mean, everyone was great, so I don't know. I
But the
don't know.
doing of it is mostly a delightfully solitary hobby. Your dressing yourself is largely your own work by yourself.
Right. Who helps you dress?
Right? Nobody. You get input. Although, again, some people in certain relationships, some people do hand off. I mean, sometimes they hand off responsibilities of how they should dress to a friend. They, like you talk about your Allison. Some people just hand it off to Allison and be like, I don't know what I look good in. I don't
Yeah,
care. So
just
I just
dress
find,
me. Yeah.
yeah, right. So they just say, dress me. Hey, buy me stuff. Lots of men go into stores specifically for that. And then the guys who are in there to sell, that's their job. Dude, I don't know what I want. You just tell me what I should get, and that's what I'm going to get.
Yeah, put something on me that looks okay. Yeah. Well, and so I don't do that because I like to dress. It's a hobby.
Right.
But if you hated every part of this, everything I described, the looking at the things that you might like, the trying them on, the going out in it and deciding if you're comfortable or not, all that experimentation. If you don't like that, then you just need someone to help you dress, right? Or you need to find something that works for you and repeat it. There are also people who, I mean, I'm a little bit uniformish in the things that I do, but a million moving pieces, right? So some people wear the same sweater in 5 colors and the same slacks in 5 colors, and that's what they wear, right? To not have to spend this kind of time and thought and energy, and like, I don't have any problem with that. If they're not, this isn't joyful for them, right? And usually they found something that looks good, or someone's helped them find something, and they just walk around in the world. It's fine, right? I don't think anyone has to do any of this stuff. Um, I do it because it's fun.
Maybe in the same way I would have asked somebody a couple podcasts ago about if somebody wants to get started drawing, do you have any suggestions to them? So if somebody wanted to get started as dressing as a hobby, from your perspective, like someone said, I don't think I like what I wear. What are the first thing or the first few things you think I should start doing?
Well, I would start with, what do you like? Um, I might start with, what's your very favorite piece of clothing in your wardrobe now, or that you've ever had, right? What can you learn from that? And that's my, wow, I just want to dress like a gypsy every day of my life. Well, that's a sign, right? And I think your question about who can weigh in, like, do you have someone who would go shopping with you and talk about what you like, right? Like, I think that's great to have feedback. Um, and then I am a fan of the saving the things you like. So again, shameless plug for Pinterest, who pays me nothing, but make a board, right, of the even more than one, right? Here's what I would like to wear today. Here's what I love but would be embarrassed to go out in. Um, you don't have to put it on your My Style board. You can make another board that's the stretch style, call it something else though. And then grow into that if you really like it. Experiment, right? I'm all about experimenting with behavior. That's just experiment with this behavior. Wear this, how do you feel? Wear that, how do you feel? What do you like better? And just pay attention to it.
Well, I don't think much about how I dress, but I've always liked watching you come in with different stuff every day. So I appreciate dressing, even if it's not my hobby. So thanks for talking to me.
Has entertainment value. I'm glad I could entertain you.
This was Marnette, and she dresses as a hobby.